So we're going to try something a little bit new with the closing remarks. I think you have an evaluation, but if you don't, yeah, you will definitely have evaluations at the end of the day tomorrow. And tell us what you thought of this session. So a couple people last year pointed out that each day there was just an overwhelming amount of information, and I imagine that happened for you again today. It certainly happened for me. So what we thought we would try is curate sort of the day, some of the highlights. So this is going to be highlights, super brief highlights, one or two take-homes from each session as determined by me. And I have a very thick skin, so if you didn't agree with any of it, come up and we can argue about it. But I think probably the highlight of the day for me was the Alpha Burritos, which I started my day off with. What did people think of the Alpha Burritos? Actually, all the food was fantastic, so I'm going to have multiple highlights, and it's all going to be food. But so the first session, taking plant-based meat mainstream. All of us at GFI were extremely honored and excited that Kroger took that opportunity as the biggest chain grocer in the United States to announce their own plant-based line. That was pretty exciting. There was a consensus across the panel that if you don't nail taste and texture, you are basically screwed. So the idea of MVP in tech, a lot of people here will know that MVP means minimum viable product. But obviously, minimum viable product is something that doesn't work with food. You need your product to taste fantastic the first time so that people will keep coming back. And then as a sort of complement to that, the idea that it was people were asked, what is it about now that has caused plant-based to accelerate in the way that it has accelerated? And it felt to me like the consensus was that it is really attempting to see our consumer as everyone, not to see our consumer as vegetarians and flexitarians, but to really design the products with a focus on people who love meat, which is most people. The second session, marketing to meat eaters. There was, I think, a declaration that we're at a tipping point, which I was extremely excited about. Morningstar Farms has announced recently that they are adding a bunch of products, which I think will appeal to meat-eating consumers. CKE talked about the inclusivity of adding the Beyond Burgers to Carl's Jr. And Chuck talked about something that I think has been a theme for just about everybody, and that is that consumers are driving this, and consumers are going to continue to drive this. So whether you are the conventional meat industry, you are the upstarts, or whoever you are, obviously you need to appeal to consumers, which I think links back to the taste issue. Then we heard from capitalizing on change. One thing that I hope the startups were listening to was that valuations are too high. And you may be able to set your valuation pretty high at your Series A, but if you are locked into a too high valuation, you are going to have a come to Jesus moment in the not too distant future, and it's going to be painful for you and painful for your investors. So talk with some of the mentors, talk with some of the people on that panel. The people who run these VCs, and especially the impact investors in these VCs, are excited to talk with budding entrepreneurs. So get advice and talk with them about that. ADM and Tyson talked about being all about the customers, unsurprisingly. And everybody, again, resonated with the idea that taste is what's going to be most important. Taste is what's going to be able to make the change. And once again, we had another announcement from the stage. Tyson announced that they are going into plant-based fish, and Tom talked about their investment in plant-based fish, which is a very exciting thing, I think, from the perspective of everybody at GFI. I understood almost nothing that was discussed in the Beyond Plants panel, truth be told. But I really liked Thomas Jonas talking about how we need to solve some really big problems in the world, and consequently, we need to produce meat more efficiently. And sustainable bioproducts, he said, is actually producing meat from fermentation far more effectively even than meat from plants. But everything on that panel, even though I didn't understand it very well, I found it just incredibly exciting to hear incredibly smart people who could be doing literally anything with their very big scientific brains, and they're applying their expertise to taking the technology that they've been working on for a while and applying that to creating meat, not from plants and not from cells, but creating meat from microbes. Super exciting. Then we all went up and had lunch, which I at least thought was spectacular. Did people enjoy the Morningstar Farms lunch? So again, that was my highlight too. It's all about food, and yeah, one thing I was going to mention is I have been eating these products for more than 30 years, which makes me an expert on these products, and and doing GFI full time for just short of 4 years. So the reflections that I am making up here are sort of underlines of things that struck me. How flippin' awesome was Brian Cooley moderating the pitch session? So 6 just incredibly up-and-coming and diverse companies making jackfruit into something even more appealing, making plant-based chicken that costs the same or less and tastes the same or better in the short term. Hooray for bacon, absolutely. Taking tempeh to the masses, and then bioprinting for both plant-based and cell-based, and then programmable mushrooms. I don't know, I thought all 6 of those companies were just absolutely fascinating, and I'm really glad that we got all of those on video, because I'm going to be going back and looking at everything that everybody had to say. We came back from lunch, and we did plant protein science, which I understood a little bit better than the Beyond Plants session. But I really thought the take-home for that, or at least 2 take-homes. One is processing is not bad. So if we think about processing, one of the panelists said, processing is oftentimes shorthand for either A, you took out bad stuff, or B, you added you took out good stuff or you added bad stuff. And when you compare the plant-based products, they are devoid of cholesterol, they have less saturated fat, they have more phytochemicals, they have complex carbohydrates, they have fiber. Obviously, animal meat doesn't have fiber, it doesn't have complex carbohydrates, it has more saturated fat, and it has cholesterol. So we really need to think about what processing means. There was a basic consensus that soy is good, and that it's scientific denialism to be attacking soy. Celeste pointed out that she's been eating soy for quite a while, and she's doing fine. I have also been eating way more than my fair share of soy for the last 35 years and feel like I'm doing okay. And then the other thing which had been underlined earlier, which I think we oftentimes don't think as much about, is the fact that the plant-based products are just going to get better and better and better. And it was interesting to hear Celeste talk about how they're now on Impossible 2.0. I know Beyond is on Beyond 2.0. The products are going to get more and more healthy. And they're already so much more environmentally friendly, but they're going to get better and better from an environmental standpoint. And I think that was something that I would want to underline. Policy and leveling the playing field, the last panel, the panel that was just up. So apparently the only people who support label censorship are the people who are actually passing the laws, and everybody else doesn't. And I was really interested in hearing Dipti, who's been at this for a very long time, say that the progress on cultivated meat was essentially lightning fast. And I know GFI was deep in that process, working with companies to file comments that support what ended up happening, the FDA and the USDA doing joint regulation. And when Sonny Perdue and Scott Gottlieb, the USDA secretary and the commissioner at FDA at the time, came out, and they were talking about how the United States is the top country for innovation, and we want to be the top country for making sure that these products are safe and well regulated. I think pretty much everybody's hearts sung. So that is the distillation of the conference, the distillation of the day from my perspective, and I will look forward to having conversations with people who had other key take-homes. And again, if you found this interesting, let us know you found it interesting. If you found it not interesting, please let us know you found it not interesting, and we won't do it again. I want to close with 3 quick things. The first one is another thank you and round of applause to Morningstar Farms, to CPT Capital, to New Crop Capital, to Stray Dog Capital, to Wenger Manufacturing, and to Beyond Meat. Those are Morningstar Farms is our presenting sponsor. The others are our gold sponsors. Please do take some time at the beginning of the day or the networking breaks or the end of the day to visit our sponsors and thank them for making our conference possible. We literally couldn't do it without them. Then the second thing I want to do is once again thank GFI's donors. All of you in your bags got GFI's annual report. So working with entrepreneurs, and I was, really just delighted by how many of the people who were pitching were talking about their work with GFI. But we do a lot more than that. You got some of it from Jessica and the policy panel, and have heard some of it on the corporate engagement panel, and we'll hear some on what we're doing on science tomorrow. But please take a look at the annual report. Thank you to our donors, and if you are not currently a donor, we would love to chat with you about that if you're open to it. And then the final thing is I am super excited to see everybody back here tomorrow. So thrilled and honored that you're spending 2.5 days with us doing this. And now extremely excited to tell you that as you walk out, everybody will be given a drink coupon, and the Beyond Meat sponsored party is going to be epic. And it begins in about 2 minutes. So thank you all so much, and I hope you have an awesome evening.